Right, so getting back to this Supra and its engine, which is all been mated up in that last video. So the clutch and everything is now installed in there. The next thing to do is to get the car jacked up so I can actually have some clearance underneath it to get the gearbox in and all the mounting stuff, and I can actually get my arm underneath to do everything up. So before I even started to raise the car, I had a bit of a think about using axle stands, and myself personally, I do not like axle stands because they sit on your pinch welds, and after I've just done all that work redoing the underside of the car, the last thing I want to be doing is damaging my pinch welds and wrecking all that Raptor paint. So I've made my own axle stands out of some blocks of wood basically. So yeah. So the bigger of the axle stand things that I've made, which are these big chunks of wood, they've got a leg on there. These are going to sit under the wheels. So I'll show you that one. So it'll be like that. This is just to stop it tipping forward and backward, and obviously these will stop the wheels from rolling off the top. So they're going to sit underneath there. I've got another one made for the other side. And then the others that I've got are literally just going to go underneath, and there's two raised sections so that on your pinch welds here, they sit, sorry that one, they sit either side of your pinch weld against your body, not actually on your pinch weld. So hopefully it protects them. Wouldn't be in wood as well. It's not quite as scratchy. So I'll go and grab them and get the trolley jack ready. So I'm going to start with the back end first, just because it's a bit more of a pig to lift up, and also because I don't have the diff installed in the subframe. I normally jack up off the diff and lift from that, but unfortunately that's not in there. So, not that you can see it clearly, but all I've got there is a subframe to lift from, so I need to try and find a nice sort of central spot that I can lift from, that I'm not going to damage anything. So let's get to it, shall we? Right, so I managed to get underneath, get it jacked up off subframe there. I've got one block underneath there, the other one is here. So as you can see, got the stabilising legs on it, so that should be good to go. So I'm just going to get it lowered down now, and then should be right. So there you go, installed. One there, the other one's over there. It's not ideal, but it'll work. Ideally I'd like some of those you know, the hydraulic quick jacks, but I ain't got a spare 1200 quid just to lift my car up, so blocks of wood it'll have to be. So now, in order to get the front jacked up, I need to remove this front bumper, get that out of the way, and I might remove the lower radiator panel there so I can get the jack all the way under to the aluminium part of the front subframe there. So as you can see, my trolley jack is going to be hitting that lower panel, so I'm going to have to remove that so I can get it in underneath there. Right, so just had to run off there and go and get my little lad from school, but I'm back. So as you can see, I've now removed this lower panel. It is bolted in. It's usually riv nutted in, spot welded in, sorry I should say, but I replaced all the spot welds a while ago. So if you've been following me on TikTok, you'll know that I changed all of those to riv nuts. So all this front end now is a lot easier to remove. So in terms of getting the engine in as well, I'll be able to remove the entire front end. So yeah, basically, so we can just go straight in without having to do a ridiculous arc like it did when I took it out. So makes my life a lot easier in the long run. So let's get that out of the way and then we'll get it jacked up. Well, there we go, she's up in the air now on twin blocks at the front and at the back. So she's a good foot off the ground there now, which makes my life a lot easier. But what I do need to do is adjust the handbrake so that it's got no movement whatsoever, because at the moment it can wobble. It's only rocking on the wheels, it's not the whole stack wobbling, so I need to adjust the handbrake and then we can put the wheels on permanent lock so they're not going to go anywhere. So let's get to that. Well, I'm not surprised I got no handbrake because it's not even connected up, look. It's never going to work, is it? Right, so that's that reconnected up properly now, so hopefully, with any luck, we should have some handbrake. And that's it, handbrake's all adjusted, it's now up in the air, it's a lot more solid, no more rock to it. So now at least I know it's not going to go rolling off on me. So time now to get the engine ready to bring out, but before I do that, I've got to clear a path through here because it's currently a dumping ground. So let's get to it, shall we? Right, so I've tidied up the outside. There's only one pallet left with the old rotisserie on it, so I can just move that out when I am ready, and then I'll put it back again once the engine's in place. So no point in me showing you that really, but there is one little job that I want to get done on the engine. I know I said there was only one in the last little video, but I completely forgot about this. So on the exhaust side, as you can see, you've got these exhaust studs. They're pretty self-explanatory, but on the actual exhaust manifold itself, so on here, I can just rest that against there so that I don't hurt myself. So as you can see, this is the underside, so this is going to be like rotated that way, so it's facing downwards, so this bit's going to be the bottom, so this is against the engine. So a couple of these ports are nice and clear, so that one's clear, that one's clear, this one's relatively clear from the header there, but this one, as you can see, the stud goes straight into the header. That one has a big clearance, but this one here is quite close also. So basically, I'll just put that down because it is rather heavy. Let's get one of the nuts out of my pocket to show you. So this is one of the exhaust studs and one of the nuts. So basically, the shorter end of this thread goes into the block and the longer end sticks out through here. So as you can see, if they are too long, that one's not too bad. I can't get that one through now because the engine mat's in the way. But that one, as you can see, it only goes through so far before it hits the exhaust itself. So it won't actually allow you to pull the exhaust all the way in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go now and get the exhaust gasket. So now I've got the correct thicknesses of everything. And then I'm going to put the screws in, run them all down on the engine block. And then I'm going to install this and mark these so that I can basically trim them down to fit correctly, because if I don't do it now, I've got to do all this in the engine bay on the car. When you're looking at it here, there's going to be the suspension turret here, and this is just going to be in the way, and then this is just going to be scratching all of that new paintwork that I've just put into the engine bay. So I want to get this done now, and then I'm not mucking about later on down the line, making it harder work for myself. So yeah, I'll just get them gaskets out and then we're going to go from there. So these are the standard gaskets from Toyota that I'm going to be using. So as you can see, there's 3 pieces of metal inside there, 4 in fact, 1, 2, 5 up there that I can see. So yeah, they're quite a chunky gasket. As you can see, they are quite thick. So the reason why I wanted to put these on first is just to make sure that I'm basically going to be cutting them bolts down to the correct length, because I don't want to do the bolts too short and then be up poop creek without a paddle, if you know what I mean. So let's get to it. So already, let me change my hands. I bet you can't see it under there. So already one of those is clashing. I can feel that it's not letting me push the exhaust all the way in. As you can see in that little bit there, it's touching. So that's definitely the one that needs trimming down. I think there was only the one that really needed a substantial trim, but I think there's 2 of them that are potentials. So I'm just going to have a proper scan around there now, and we'll see if we can find whichever one needed it. So you are alright. You definitely do. I think you'll be okay once you're tightened, and you're alright. So I think it's just that one. Possibly this one on the end as well. Yeah, So, oh. Yeah, it's definitely that one and potentially this one. So I'll get them marked up and then I'll get them trimmed down with the angle grinder. So just so you can see it a bit clearer, these are now run down like just really good finger tight. I don't want to crunch any of the gaskets by tightening anything up too much. But if you look through the gap there, you can see how much of an angle there is on that flanged face, because these studs are actually touching, it's this one here, these actually touching this exhaust runner, so it's not letting the manifold sort of squeeze in against the block properly. So I'll get them marked out with a Sharpie now and then we'll get them trimmed. Not that you can see it clearly on the camera, but I've put a mark there, so I'm just going to trim that bit of bolt off, and then if it's still too long I'll take a bit more off and then a bit more off until I'm happy with it. No point going gung-ho and chopping a load off, because then you're going to be stuck without a stud. Alright, so there you go, that's been chopped now with the angle grinder, so it's a bit rough at end, so I'm just going to clean it up with file and clean out the threads and make sure they still work properly. Right, so that's the end of that, just cleaned up a bit, and the thread, I know the camera doesn't really want to focus on that because it's too close, but I've cleaned up the threads again so they're nice and ready for accepting the nut. So I'll just check that and then we should be good to go really. Right, so that's now fitting as it should. I've got the clearance on that stud now, so it's not actually touching the header anymore. I think they're called headers. I always get the terminologies mixed up with these things. So, but as you can see, these studs are very close, they're not touching, but what that means for me is when I put this exhaust manifold on, it's going to have to go on very, very loosely first, and then try and run these nuts on and use them to pull the manifold in, because once it's in situ like this, if I tighten up the top ones by accident first, then I physically cannot get the nuts on to here. Ideally, I'd like to slot the flanged faces and then I can just have the nuts sat on ready to go and then they just slot in, but I can't be bothered doing all that lot now, and plus it'll take a bit of strength out of the manifold. So I don't really want to be doing that because it's going to be running some heat through here. So yeah, so the next task now is just to make sure that everything else is good to go. I mean, I'm happy with that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, basically once it gets to fitting it on the car, it's going to make it a bit of a pain in the backside, because I've got 3 nuts on those 3 studs that are basically these that are, I've not got a lot of space under there, so it makes getting the nuts on really awkward and running them down even more so, because they're underneath. There's going to be other stuff in the way in the engine bay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to slot the holes. So basically if I slot that hole, the edge of that one, so I think this one's not too bad because I've got quite a lot of clearance there, but what I might do is I might slot all of the lower holes, and then basically the manifold can then just like slot in and then butt up. So it makes my life a lot easier in the long run, and for because I know that this manifold is going to be going on and off probably quite a lot in its future. So I just want to get it all right now and then it's future proofed. So let's just get to it. Right, so that's all those holes in the bottom slotted, so that makes my life a lot easier. I'm just going to get the flapper disc on it now and just give them a bit of a cleaning out, because they are very rough just at the minute. So I'll do that. And there we have it. So I've just done all the deburring of the edges of these, so not quite sharp anymore. And I've also just gone down it using a file, basically holding it flat and just draw filing it all the way up, just to show the flat spots and any high spots and take them out, because I don't know if you can see it there on the camera, but there's a little bit of a dull spot still in the middle there, which shows that that's a low spot, so that could be a potential failure across your gasket. But yeah, other than that, it's not looking too bad. So yeah, this is pretty much ready to rock and roll. So the next job really is getting this outside now and into the car. But before I do that, I'm just going to check that that manifold goes on the way in which I want it to go on first. So I've just given it a quick try on there. So as you can see, these have already got the nuts installed except for one. So when I slotted the manifold into there, when it went in, everything was a little bit tight, so it wouldn't allow me to tighten this up because the actual nut itself, when it's inside that gap, it's actually too tall, so it's too thick. So what I need to do is sort of like remove this flanged face off of the nut to make the nut a lot narrower, because this is currently about 10mm, needs to be around about 8mm. So let's go get it inlaid. Right, so that's the difference in the height of the nuts I was on about. So it doesn't take a lot, but that distance is going to make all the difference now for when I come to tighten the nuts up underneath the manifold. So I'm just going to have one more go at installing this dry here on the engine stand before I get to the car, because once it's on car it's going to be a pain in the backside to do it. So let's have another go, shall we? So now that I'm happy with how the manifold is going to fit, the next thing I really need to do, and this is quite critical before I completely forget, but the inlet manifold inside the runners here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but look, I've got a clean finger. See all the dirt in there? That's not just dirt, that is shot blasting media. So all inside these runners, get a torch so you can see, but all inside these runners, and you see all that shiny stuff, that's all shot blasting grit. I didn't realise that all that lot was in there because these were sent away for Cerakote, apart from the actual black manifold part there that you can see. So I need to get all them cleaned out before they go anywhere near the engine, because if it starts sucking that stuff in, it's game over before we even start. So I'm going to get the air compressor out, give that a good blowing out, and I'm also going to get a long wooden dowel with a rag on it, so it's spinning inside there whilst I blow it out, just to knock everything loose, and I'm going to blow it all out. So yeah. But before I can do that, I need to remove the throttle body, because that there is a big plug. So if that's in the way, nothing can be blown through it from the runner side. So if I can take this off, it just creates so I can blast it through. And I'm also going to remove the fuel rail, because I don't want anything blowing up into the fuel rail. I know it can't because the injectors are there, but also I don't want to be getting a load of shot blasting grit anywhere near my injectors either. So I'm just going to pop that rail off, and then we're pretty much good to start cleaning. Alright, so that's the fuel rail now off, so it's time to start and get in there and get cleaning. So I've just knocked this up dead quick. It's basically a little bit of copper brake line with a load of tie wraps that have been chopped down on the end. So I'm going to put that in there, give it a bit of a spin, and hopefully that should knock a lot of the loose debris loose, and we can get it out. So already I've only been in there 2 seconds. You can see all that loose stuff coming out. So all of that has got to go. Look at the state of that's coming out. Should have done this sooner, I think. Right, so I've just knocked a bit of the dust free, so what if I put the blower in there now? Have a look. Look at the state of that lot coming out. So that's no good, so we're going to have to keep going till it's completely clean. So I could do with doing quite a fair more passes. So I've also got to get in there yet and do all of the inside of the manifold too. Nothing's ever just straightforward, is it? So I've just gone a little bit more aggressive. So I've got a proper like little wire bottle brush thing there. And as you can see, look at the amount of gunge and grit that is in these runners. So that would have been an absolute catastrophe if I'd have put that back in, I think. So I'm just going to have to keep going. Alright, so that's them all cleared out. So as you can see, they are a lot cleaner. I've also done inside of there, not that you can see. But yes, so I can now put the fuel rail back on, and so this is a complete unit, then I don't have to keep messing around taking it on and off, so it just makes everything a bit easier. So yeah, let's just put that back together. So that's all the manifold back together, throttle body back on, although there's no gasket in there, so this will be coming off again at some point, but it's just to keep it all together as a single unit. So engine is ready to go, the manifold for the exhaust is ready to go, but I've just got to try and tidy some of this because I've got a fucking tumble dryer in the way, and I need to get that door open and that door partially open so I can get the engine out and towards the car. Right, so that's that area cleared out. Should be enough space there. So my central door goes down behind that TV there, so I should be able to sneak it out through there. But then once you get outside, I'll show you. I've got a roof box in the way on these, so these are going to have to move just to locate around there for the time being. But this pallet's going to have to go, and this is my rotisserie that I use for doing all the underbody work on the car. So basically that's going to have to go as well, as I need a straight run all the way through here to the car to get that engine in there. Wood's going to have to go, the lot. So cleared that area out. It's a little bit later on in the evening now because I've had to do all the school run, this, that and the other. So above me here, this wooden bit's like a little bit of a loft space, as you call it, in my garage. So I have dug out the anti-roll bars that need to go on the car that are currently on the driveway, and there's also one other job that I do need to do. And for anybody that followed me on TikTok saw me doing all the fuel filtration system, but unfortunately the fuel filter that I have put on doesn't have the sufficient flow rate of fuel for what I want it to do. So I've had to purchase a new one, unfortunately. So it's the same size, but it's by the company Radium, and I believe off the top of my head, I can't remember what the micron size is on this now off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up. Just give us a sec. Well, it didn't take much research because it's right there on the blooming box, innit? So it's a 6 micron filter. The filter that is currently on the car is plenty good for the filtration wise, it's just not good enough for the flow rate wise, so hence why I've had to buy myself a new one. Now this wasn't the cheapest, but I bought it because of the diameter of it as well, so it should fit within the same clasp, the same standard mount that I used for the other filter, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. So I'm going to go pop the lights on now because it is flipping dark outside. As anybody knows, in the UK the nights are drawing in now. I think next weekend the clocks go back. I think it's next weekend anyway. So yes, I'm going to start losing even more light during the evenings. So yeah, I'm going to go pop the lights on now, and then we shall see about getting this filter fitted. So the standard filter is there, so in order to get at it, I'm going to finish taking the front of the car apart. There's only a few bolts holding it in, so I'll get to that now, and then it makes my life walking in and out of there a lot easier. Right, so now that's out of the way, it makes my life a lot easier. I can just walk in and out of here again. So next job to do is to remove the, it'll probably be the AN fitting from the back end there, take this filter out, and then go from there. Good job I checked, because it wasn't even tight. Alright, need an Allen key now to go in there. So unfortunately they are quite a fair bit different. So that bracket won't fit. So I'm going to take it off so I can get at it easier. And then we'll go from there. So that's the old, like the hole that the filter goes in. That's the filter. As you can see, it's not a million miles off. So I might be able to stretch this out a little bit further just yet. So I'm going to go take it in garage. So unfortunately this is going to be redundant now. So if you can imagine that this is the same diameter as my fuel filter there. So if I was to stretch this out to accommodate that, even though it goes in, you can see the direct line from bolt to nut there. I'd have to have the bolt going through the filter because it just won't line up, if you know what I mean. So that bolt would cut through the filter. So what I'm going to have to do is get the angle grinder, and on this bit of a ridge here I'm going to cut it off there. I'm going to cut the nut off along that ridge down there as well, so I've still got a nice radiused cradle there for the filter housing to sit in. And then I'll drill a hole through here, and I'm just going to use that Jubilee clip and run it right the way around it basically. So that's the bracket. Now I've cut those bits off, so as you can see it's still got a nice rounded face for the filter to sit on. So all I need to do now is, in this face here, is to create a slot basically for the Jubilee clip to fit into. Right, so basically just butchered 3 little holes into there. So now I'm just going to open it up with the round file and then create a slot exactly where I need it. And there we go, so I've got my slot in there, so the Jubilee clip should fit through there now. I'm going to take it underneath this protective plate, so it'll come out from underneath that gap there. You'll see exactly what I mean in just a second. And there we have it. So it goes off underneath that bracket, through there, round, through there, and over the top. So that is now clamped nice and sturdy. So let's go and get it back out on the car, and then we know where we're going from. There we go. So that's in, but as you can see, it's very, very close to the subframe there. It's not actually tucked in. I've probably got, whoa, about 3mm worth of a gap. So luckily, it does fit. I can always just push the braided fuel hose backwards a little bit, just to give me a bit more scope for movement there, but we should be good. Right, so it's the morning after that last little clip. I'm not gonna lie, I'm coming down with a cold and I feel absolutely fucking dreadful. So yeah, I came out to have a look at carrying on with a few things. Next job is this anti-roll bar, but again, more problems. Basically, I've come to fit them. So the mounting points for the anti-roll bar is this thing. So that bolts to the chassis right there. There's another one that bolts to that side. Now these then have 2 little bolt holes underneath, which this anti-roll bar then bolts to that. So I've got these adapter plates which sandwich the bush between its U-shape. So instead of lifting that, I'll show you. There's another one there, so there's a U-shaped clamp that goes underneath, and then these little metal plates go on top of there. So basically you end up with a sandwiched piece like this that then gets turned over and bolts to there like so. But one of the issues is, if I can get that to stay still, that these plates, as you can see, the holes don't line up properly. If you push it flat and then slide it in, you can see that hole at the bottom is half covered, so can't get the bolt started. So these corners need chamfering off even more, which obviously is breaking the powder coat. So they're going to rust, so they're going to need protecting. And this thing here, it doesn't really look that bad, but when you try and offer it up against something flat, just give us 2 secs. So when it's offered up against something flat, see how the ends are flared out, especially on this side. There's a great big gap under it there. So that flare out is so that hole will line up, but that one, as you can see, is an absolute mile out. So they all need squeezing and bending and making to fit properly, which these are supposed to be bought to fit parts. So in my eyes, everything should just go together. Obviously these are the standard, these fit perfect. I've had them powder coated myself, but I've also noticed, which is a cock up on my behalf, but it's quite a big cock up. So on here, that there is your bolting hole for your drop link to attach to the end of the bolt holes on your anti-roll bar. Now, me being me, not checking something fucking 10 times over before I threw it together, that hole should be here. And on this side, that hole should be over there. So that bracket and that bracket have been fitted on the wrong bloody arms, haven't they? So that means dropping all the wheels off again, dropping the suspension strut out, unbolting it, sorry, dropping the arms, undoing the 2 bolts, changing the brackets over and refitting all the suspension again. So for me, in the condition I'm feeling today, that's it, I'm done. So I'm going to drop the end of the video here, but hopefully coming up soon I'll be getting these fully fitted and the engine in, hopefully. So yeah. See you in the next one. Bye.